The massive hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of alien beings filled the floating seats that hung in the air like glowing bubbles. The air hummed with the sound of translation devices working to convert hundreds of different languages into something everyone could understand. Ambassador Jake Martinez stood alone on the speaking platform in the center of the hall. He was the only human in a room full of creatures that looked like nightmares and dreams mixed together. Some had too many eyes. Others had no eyes at all. Some were covered in scales, others in fur, and a few seemed to be made of living metal. Jake wore his simple blue Earth uniform. It looked plain compared to the fancy robes and armor worn by the other species. But he stood straight and calm, even though he knew what he was about to say would shock everyone in the room. High above him, the council leader floated in a crystal sphere. The Vraxian looked like a giant jellyfish with glowing tentacles. Its voice echoed through the hall like thunder. "Human Representative Jake Martinez," the leader said. "You have had 3 full cycles to consider our generous offer. The Galactic Council invites Earth to join our peaceful union. All we ask is that you follow our laws and give up your weapons. In return, we will protect you and share our advanced technology." Jake looked up at the floating alien. Around him, thousands of other creatures waited for his answer. Some leaned forward in their seats. Others made clicking or buzzing sounds that might have been laughter. "I have Earth's official response," Jake said. His voice carried clearly through the hall thanks to the sound systems. "We thank the Council for their offer, but our answer is no." The hall fell silent. For a moment, no one moved. Then the noise started. Aliens began talking, shouting, and making sounds Jake had never heard before. Some stood up in their floating seats. Others seemed to be arguing with their neighbors. The council leader raised several tentacles for silence. The noise slowly died down. "Perhaps you do not understand," the leader said. "This is not a request that can be refused. Every species in this galaxy follows council law. There are no exceptions." Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Then I guess we'll be the first exception." An alien that looked like a walking tree stood up in its seat. "Impossible. No species has ever refused council membership. Your people are new to space travel. You need our protection." "We've been protecting ourselves just fine," Jake said. "Earth fought 2 world wars before we even left our planet. We've been fighting for survival since we first walked upright. We don't need anyone's protection." A creature covered in blue fur hissed through its translator. "Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are slow. You barely have colonies on a few worlds. One council battle fleet could destroy everything you have built." Jake's smile grew wider. "You're welcome to try." The hall erupted in chaos again. This time it took longer for the council leader to restore order. When the noise finally stopped, Jake could feel the anger radiating from thousands of alien minds. "You speak of war," the leader said, "but war is wasteful, unnecessary violence. The Council has brought peace to this galaxy for 12,000 years. "Peace through force isn't peace," Jake replied. "It's slavery with better marketing." A massive alien that looked like a living rock slammed one of its boulder-sized fists on its seat. "You dare insult the Council? We have lifted countless species from barbarism. We have ended wars, stopped famines, and brought order to chaos." Jake turned to face the rock creature. "And what did you ask for in return? Their freedom? Their right to choose their own path? Thanks, but we'll keep our barbarism." The council leader's tentacles glowed brighter. "You are being unreasonable, human. Your species numbers only 12 billion across 20 worlds. The council represents over 10 trillion beings across 50,000 worlds. You cannot stand against us." "Numbers don't always win wars," Jake said. "Sometimes the smaller guy hits harder." An insect-like alien with multiple heads spoke up. "Your bravado is amusing, but pointless. Accept council authority now, and your transition will be gentle. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to use methods that are less pleasant." Jake looked around the hall, meeting as many alien gazes as he could. "Let me make something clear to all of you. Earth didn't crawl out of its gravity well and spread across the stars just to bow down to a new set of masters. We've spent our entire history fighting against anyone who tried to control us, Kings, emperors, dictators, we've beaten them all. He paused, letting his words sink in. You want to know why humans are different? It's because we came from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages, volcanoes, storms, predators, diseases, we survived it all. And every time something tried to wipe us out, we got stronger. The hall was quieter now. Some of the aliens were listening more carefully. You species came from garden worlds, Jake continued. Planets where everything was easy, where resources were plentiful and dangers were few. You developed technology because it was convenient, not because you needed it to survive another day. A serpent-like alien with golden scales spoke in a hissing voice. And what makes you think your harsh world makes you special? Suffering does not equal strength. Jake laughed, and the sound echoed through the hall. Suffering doesn't make us special. What makes us special is that we turned our suffering into weapons. Every human child learns to fight before they learn to walk. Every human colony is built like a fortress. Every human ship can become a weapon if needed. The council leader's tentacles were now pulsing with angry red light. You speak as if you have a choice in this matter. The council's patience has limits. Good, Jake said. I was getting tired of talking anyway. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. With the press of a button, a holographic image appeared above his head. It showed Admiral Lisa Barnes, the head of Earth's military forces, standing on the bridge of humanity's newest warship. The Admiral's voice filled the hall. This message is for the Galactic Council. Humanity hereby rejects all offers of membership, protection, or cooperation. We claim our right to exist as a free and independent species. Any attempt to force compliance will be met with total resistance. The hologram shifted to show dozens of human warships moving into position around Earth's colonies. The ships looked crude compared to Council vessels, but they bristled with weapons and moved with purpose. We didn't ask to be found by your council, the Admiral continued. We didn't ask for your laws or your protection. All we want is to be left alone to build our own future. Give us that, and we can coexist peacefully. Try to force us into submission, and you'll learn why humans have never stayed conquered for long. Jake turned off the device and looked up at the council leader. That's our final answer. No negotiations, no compromises, no surrender. The silence that followed was deafening. Then the council leader spoke, and its voice was cold as space. So, be it human, you have chosen war. Jake smiled one last time. No, we chose freedom. You chose war. 3 weeks after the human ambassador left the council chambers, Fleet Commander Veltharion stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Glory. The massive ship was 10 miles long and carried enough firepower to crack a moon in half. Around it, 200 other council warships hung in space like deadly metal stars. Veltharion was a Kethmari, one of the warrior species that served as the council's military arm. He stood 12 feet tall on 4 powerful legs, with arms that could crush steel in a hide tough enough to stop bullets. His people had conquered 17 star systems before joining the council 5,000 years ago. Show me the target, he ordered his tactical officer. A holographic display appeared in front of him. It showed a small blue and brown planet orbiting a yellow star. The planet looked peaceful from space, with white clouds swirling over green continents and blue oceans. New Austin, the tactical officer reported. Population 50,000 humans. Primary industries are mining and agriculture. Defenses are minimal. Veltharion studied the display. The human colony had a few orbital stations and some small cargo ships moving between them and the planet. Nothing that looked like serious military hardware. Perfect, he said. This will be quick and clean, a demonstration of council power that will convince the other human worlds to surrender without further bloodshed. His communications officer, a thin alien with gray skin and large black eyes, turned toward him. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human colony. Put it through, Veltharion said. The face of a middle-aged human woman appeared on the main screen. She had short brown hair and wore a simple work uniform. Behind her, Veltharion could see what looked like a mining facility. This is Mayor Betty Ford of New Austin, the woman said. We know you're out there. We can see your ships on our sensors. Veltharion stepped forward. I am Fleet Commander Veltharion of the Galactic Council Defense Force. By order of the Council, your colony is now under Council authority. You have 30 minutes to evacuate your orbital facilities and prepare for occupation. The human woman looked tired, not afraid. And if we refuse? Then we will remove you by force, Veltharion replied. I have 200 warships. You have nothing that can threaten us. Surrender now and no one needs to die. Betty Ford was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled, and something about that smile made Veltharion uncomfortable. Commander, you seem like a reasonable being, she said. So let me explain something to you. New Austin was founded by miners from Earth, tough people who came out, here to dig valuable metals out of asteroids and hostile planets. We didn't come this far to give up at the first sign of trouble. Your bravery is admirable but pointless, Veltharion said. Evacuate now or face the consequences. The human woman shrugged. We'll take our chances. New Austin out. The transmission ended. Veltharion stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his weapons officer. Target their orbital facilities. Minimum power. We want to disable, not destroy. These humans need to learn, not die. The weapons officer, a reptilian alien with green scales, worked at his console. Targets locked, sir. Ready to fire. Fire. Blue beams of energy lanced out from the council ships. They struck the human orbital stations with pinpoint accuracy. The stations exploded in bright flashes, turning into expanding clouds of debris. Direct hits, the weapons officer reported. All orbital facilities destroyed. Veltharion nodded with satisfaction. Now they will understand. Open a channel to the planet. But before his communications officer could respond, alarm sounds started blaring throughout the ship. Sir, the tactical officer shouted. I'm reading massive energy spikes from the planet's surface, multiple launch signatures. Impossible, Veltharion said. Our intelligence reports showed no military installations. The main display changed to show dozens of bright streaks rising from New Austin's surface. At first, Veltharion thought, they were simple rockets, the kind of primitive weapons humans might use. But as the streaks got closer, he realized these were moving much faster than any chemical rocket should. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered. The first wave of human missiles struck 3 council destroyers. The ships didn't just take damage, they exploded completely. Whatever the humans were using as warheads was far more powerful than expected. How is this possible? Veltharion demanded. Where did they get such weapons? His intelligence officer, a small furry creature with 6 arms, was working frantically at his console. Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from those missiles. They appear to be using modified mining charges as warheads. Mining charges? Yes, sir. Humans use them to blast apart asteroids. But these have been somehow enhanced. The explosive yield is nearly 10 times what it should be. More missiles were rising from the planet. But now Veltharion could see that they weren't coming from military bases. They were launching from what looked like ordinary mining facilities and industrial complexes. Sir, we're also detecting weapons fire from the asteroid belt, the tactical officer reported. It appears the mining stations there have been armed. On the display, Veltharion watched in amazement as human mining ships that had looked harmless moments before began firing at his fleet. The weapons were crude but effective. Mass drivers that normally launched cargo containers were now hurling chunks of metal at incredible speeds. One of his cruisers took a direct hit from what appeared to be a solid iron projectile moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectile punched through the ship's shields and armor like they weren't even there. Impossible, Veltharion said again. How are they generating such velocities with primitive technology? His science officer provided the answer. Sir, they're using their mining equipment. The mass drivers they use to launch ore containers have been modified to fire solid projectiles. Without the need to preserve cargo, they can push the velocity much higher. Captain Roy Mitchell's voice crackled over the communication system from somewhere on New Austin's surface. Council ships, this is New Austin Defense Command. You came to our home looking for a fight. Well, you found one. Veltharion tried to locate the source of the transmission But it seemed to be coming from multiple locations across the planet. "We're miners," the human voice continued. "We know how to move rocks, how to split them apart, and how to put them back together. We know how to work in vacuum, how to handle dangerous materials, and how to fix things when they break." Another wave of missiles struck Veltharian's fleet. This time they seemed more accurate, targeting specific systems on his ships. His flagship shuddered as something hit their main engine. "What you didn't know," Captain Mitchell continued, "is that all those skills that make us good at mining also make us pretty good at fighting. Every tool we use to dig metals out of asteroids can be turned into a weapon. Every mining charge can become a warhead. Every cargo launcher can become a cannon." The battle was turning into a disaster. Veltharian had expected to face frightened colonists with hunting rifles. Instead, he was fighting people who had turned their entire industrial base into a weapons system. "Sir, we've lost 12 ships, his tactical officer reported. "Should we retreat?" Veltharian's pride wouldn't let him run from a handful of primitive humans. "Negative. All ships maximum firepower. Turn that planet into glass." But even as he gave the order, he was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. These weren't helpless colonists. They were survivors who had spent years learning to live and work in one of the most hostile environments in the galaxy, and now they were showing him exactly what that experience was worth. The Council had expected an easy victory. Instead, they had walked into a trap set by people who understood better than anyone how to turn everyday tools into instruments of war. The real fight was just beginning. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in their 12,000-year history. Representatives from hundreds of species filled the Great Hall, but instead of the usual calm discussions, panic filled the air like smoke. High, Councillor Zexthal floated in his crystal sphere above the chaos. His jellyfish-like body pulsed with angry red colors as reports came in from across the galaxy. What had started as a simple punishment of one human colony had become something much worse. "Report," he commanded, and his voice echoed through the hall. General Krickstar, a mantis-like creature with razor-sharp claws, stood up in his floating seat. "The attack on New Austin was a complete failure. Fleet Commander Veltharian lost 37 ships before retreating. 37 ships destroyed by mining equipment and industrial tools." A wave of shocked sounds rippled through the assembly. The blue-furred Velani representative hissed through its translator. "Impossible. Humans have no military technology. Their ships are barely capable of interstellar flight." "That's what we thought," General Krickstar replied. "But intelligence reports from the battle show something different. The humans didn't fight like a military force. They fought like desperate survivors using everything they could find." Dr. Helen Wright had predicted this exact scenario in her classified report to Earth's leadership 3 months earlier. She sat in her laboratory on Luna Station, reviewing the intercepted Council communications that human intelligence had managed to decode. "They still don't understand what they're dealing with," she said to Captain Ben Rodriguez, who had come to review her analysis. "Every Council species evolved on worlds where cooperation and order were survival traits. They can't comprehend a species that thrives on conflict and chaos." Captain Rodriguez studied the data on her screens. Reports were coming in from human colonies across the spiral arm. The Council had tried to repeat their New Austin strategy on 12 other worlds. Every single attack had failed. "What happened? At New Denver?" he asked. Dr. Wright brought up the tactical recordings. "The colonists there were farmers, not miners, but they adapted just as quickly. They turned their crop dusters into fighter aircraft, loaded with agricultural chemicals that ate through Council ship hulls like acid." The recordings showed small human aircraft swarming around massive Council warships. The aliens had shields, designed to stop energy weapons and solid projectiles, but they had never encountered chemical weapons delivered by crop-spraying equipment. "And New Tokyo?" "Shipbuilders," Dr. Wright replied. "They had 3 cargo vessels under construction. Took them 6 hours to turn those hulls into improvised warships. The Council fleet retreated after losing half their ships to weapons that technically didn't exist the day before." Back in the Council chambers, the panic was getting worse. Ambassador Velmok of the Crystalline Collective spoke with a voice like breaking glass. How can a species with no formal military defeat our trained battle fleets? The answer came from an unexpected source. Cultural analyst Threndar was a scholar, not a warrior. The small gray-skinned being rarely spoke in council sessions, preferring to study rather than argue. But now it stood up with data that made everyone listen. I have been studying human history since first contact, Threndar said. What we face is not a military force in any sense we understand. It is an entire species shaped by constant warfare. The hall grew quiet as the analyst continued. In their 12,000-year recorded history, humans have fought over 40,000 wars. They have never experienced peace for more than a few decades at a time. War is not something they do. It is something they are. General Krikstar's claws scraped against his seat. Every species has wars in their early history. That proves nothing. Not like this, Threndar replied. Most species fight over resources or territory. Humans fight over ideas, beliefs, and concepts that have no physical form. They will die for principles that cannot be touched or measured. The analyst activated a holographic display showing human military history. They have fought wars over religion, politics, economics, and philosophy. They have created weapons specifically designed to cause maximum suffering to other humans. Then they learned to make those same weapons more efficient. Captain Sandra Lee proved this point 3 days later, when her converted cargo ship, the Freedom's Call, encountered a Council patrol squadron near the Centauri system. Her ship was outgunned, outmanned, and had no chance of survival in a straight fight. So she didn't fight straight. Instead, she used an old human tactic called the Trojan horse. She broadcast a distress signal claiming her ship was damaged and surrendering. When the Council ships moved in to capture her vessel, they found out too late that her cargo hold was packed with mining explosives. The explosion took out 2 Council destroyers and severely damaged a third. Captain Lee's last transmission was heard across human space. Tell Earth that Sandra Lee sends her regards. The psychological impact was enormous. Council ship crews began to fear every human vessel they encountered. Was it really a harmless cargo ship, or was it a bomb with engines? Dr. Wright explained this to Captain Rodriguez as they watched the tactical reports. It's not just about the weapons or the tactics, it's about mindset. Council species fight to win objectives. Humans fight to survive, and survival means the enemy has to be completely defeated. The difference was becoming clear across human space. When Council forces attacked the agricultural world of New Kansas, the farmers didn't just defend their farms. They tracked the retreating Council ships and followed them back to their forward base, then destroyed it with improvised chemical weapons. At New California, the colonists didn't wait for the Council attack. They sent their own raiding parties to hit Council supply lines 3 systems away. High Counselor Zexthul received the most disturbing report yet from his intelligence services. Sir, we have confirmed that human tactics are spreading. They are teaching other species to fight using their methods. What do you mean? The Tauri rebellion in the Outer Rim has adopted human-style warfare. Instead of meeting our forces in traditional battle, they are using terror tactics, improvised weapons and suicide attacks. They learned these methods from human advisors. The implications were staggering. For 12,000 years, the Council had maintained peace through superior technology and overwhelming force. But humans had introduced something new to the galaxy: the idea that any enemy could be defeated if you were willing to pay the price. General Krikstar brought the final report that changed everything. Sir, we have lost contact with the 5th Fleet. Last transmission indicated they were pursuing human raiders near the Vega system. What happened to them? Unknown, sir, but we found debris from their ship scattered across 3 star systems. It appears the humans somehow turned the fleet's own weapons against them. High Counselor Zexthul realized the terrible truth. They weren't fighting a species, they were fighting an idea. The idea that freedom was worth any sacrifice, that survival meant never surrendering, and that any weapon or tactic was acceptable if it meant victory. Worse, that idea was spreading to other species. The carefully ordered galaxy that the Council had built was beginning to crack, and the cracks were spreading, like wildfire. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Council was afraid. 6 months after the first shots were fired at New Austin, High Counselor Zexthol floated alone in his private chambers, staring at reports that would have been impossible to believe a year ago. The Galactic Council was losing a war against a species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians. The numbers told a story of complete military disaster. The Council had lost over 40% of their battle fleet. Entire star systems had declared independence and joined what humans called the Free Worlds Alliance. Trade routes that had operated safely for thousands of years were now hunting grounds for human raiders. But the worst part wasn't the military losses. It was what was happening to the Council's member species. The idea of resistance, of saying no to authority, was spreading like a plague across the galaxy. Admiral Lisa Barnes stood on the bridge of humanity's newest warship, the Earth's Defiance. The ship had been built in just 4 months using a combination of captured Council technology and human engineering. It was faster and more powerful than anything the Council had ever built. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the Council homeworld," her communications officer reported. "Put it through," Admiral Barnes ordered. High Counselor Zexthol appeared on the main screen. The alien leader looked tired, his jellyfish-like body no longer glowing with the confident colors it had shown during their first meeting. "Admiral Barnes," the counselor said, "I am authorized to offer humanity full membership in the Galactic Council, equal status with all other member species. You would have voting rights, trade privileges, and full access to our technology databases." Admiral Barnes smiled, but it wasn't a happy expression. "That's a generous offer, Counselor. What's the catch?" "No catch. We simply ask that you call off your attacks on Council forces and help us restore order to the galaxy." "Order?" Admiral Barnes laughed. "You mean the order where you tell everyone else what to do and they have to obey or die?" The counselor's tentacles waved in what might have been frustration. "The galaxy needs structure, Admiral. Without the Council's guidance, there will be chaos. Species will war against each other. Trade will collapse. Billions will die." "Admiral," Barnes turned to look at her tactical display. It showed the positions of human fleets across known space. But more importantly, it showed the locations of dozens of newly independent worlds that had broken away from Council control. "Counselor, let me tell you what I see when I look at this galaxy. I see species that have been slaves for so long they forgot what freedom feels like. I see worlds that haven't made their own choices in thousands of years. And now, for the first time, they're remembering how to stand up for themselves." Captain Roy Mitchell's voice came through the communication system from the New Austin system. "Admiral, we're getting reports from the Rigel sector. The mining colonies there have declared independence. They're using the tactics we taught them." Similar reports were coming in from across human space. The Andorian farmers had modified their irrigation systems into chemical weapons delivery systems. The Centauri shipbuilders had turned their construction facilities into warship factories. The Vegan traders had armed their cargo fleets and were raiding Council supply lines. Dr. Helen Wright had been right in her original assessment. Humans weren't just fighting a war, they were teaching an entire galaxy how to fight back. President Alan Foster addressed the galaxy from Earth's capital city. His message was broadcast on every frequency, translated into hundreds of languages, and transmitted to every corner of known space. "People of the galaxy," he began, "for 12,000 years you have been told that peace requires submission, that safety requires giving up your freedom, that order requires obedience to those who claim to know better than you do." The president paused, looking directly into the camera. "Humanity rejects that lie. Real peace doesn't come from forcing everyone to be the same. It comes from respecting everyone's right to be different. Real safety doesn't come from hiding behind someone else's protection. It comes from being strong enough to protect yourself." The message was having an immediate impact. On Council worlds across the galaxy, riots were breaking out. Species that had been peaceful members for millennia were suddenly demanding the right to govern themselves. High Counselor Zexthol received the reports with growing horror. The Velani Collective had withdrawn from 3 star systems, claiming they needed to reassess their relationship with the Council. The Kethmari Empire was demanding a complete revision of the Council Charter. Even the loyal Crystalline Collective was asking uncomfortable questions about Council authority. "Sir," his military advisor reported, "we have a problem. Several Council member species are refusing to provide ships for military operations against the humans. They say they will not participate in what they call oppression of a free people." The counselor realized that the war was already lost, not because humans had better weapons or superior tactics, but because they had changed the fundamental nature of the conflict. They had turned a military campaign into a battle of ideas, and their idea was winning. Captain Sandra Lee's sacrifice at Centauri had become a symbol across the galaxy. Her last words, "If we're going down, we're taking them with us," were being repeated by rebels on 100 worlds. But they had been changed slightly. Now they said, "If we're going down, we're going down free." General Paul Stevens coordinated the final phase of humanity's campaign from his headquarters on Mars. But it wasn't a military operation in any traditional sense. Instead of attacking Council worlds, human forces were providing weapons, training, and support to anyone who wanted to break free from Council control. "We're not trying to conquer anyone," General Stevens explained to his staff. "We're just showing them that they don't have to be conquered by anyone else either." The strategy was working beyond anyone's wildest expectations. The carefully ordered galaxy that the Council had built was fragmenting into hundreds of independent systems and alliances. Some remained loyal to the Council, but they did so by choice rather than force. High Counselor Zexthul made one final attempt to save his civilization. "Admiral Barnes, surely we can find some compromise. The galaxy needs stability." Admiral Barnes looked at the alien leader with something that might have been pity. "Counselor, stability built on oppression isn't stability at all. It's just delayed revolution. You had 12,000 years of forced peace, but it was always going to end eventually." She gestured toward her tactical display. "Look at what's happening out there. Species are forming new alliances based on shared interests instead of fear. Trade is actually increasing because people are free to choose their own partners. There's conflict, yes, but it's honest conflict between equals, not masters beating slaves." The communication ended, and High Counselor Zexthul was left alone with the ruins of everything his people had built. The Galactic Council still existed, but it was no longer the supreme authority in the galaxy. It was just one government among many, forced to negotiate and compromise like everyone else. Humanity had done something that seemed impossible. They had taken a galaxy that had known only order through oppression and taught it to value freedom over security. The age of the Council was over, and the age of independent worlds had begun. The galaxy would never be the same again.